Hi, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. My apologies for starting late. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. Another day of Across the Diaspora and another evening of interesting conversations, interesting and engaging conversations around culture. Oh, finally. Sorry. I'm late. I'm late. So as you can see, the guest is not here as yet. He does have a show this weekend, so he's running a bit behind. So I'm gonna get started until he's able to join us. So in the meantime, you're just stuck with me for today, for right now, until the guest arrives. So we're gonna get started with our conversation. Let me know if there are any technical difficulties or if you're not hearing me properly. I appreciate that. So, um, today we're going to be talking about a topic which I think is something that is kind of important, right? For those of us who are into the African culture, the African scene, for those of us of the diaspora who feel we are engaged and have this connection to the continent, right? And so I've been having some conversations with some of my friends in regards to the growing influence of African culture, the growing influence of Afro beats, piano, and other African music. And so I think that this is kind of the time for us to start having that conversation in regards to what that means for us exactly. All right, so that's what we're going to be focused on today. If you see me looking at my phone, it's because I'm supposed to be getting a message pretty soon, and my phone is buzzing. So forgive me. I think this is the first time you guys can see me full length, so this feels interesting. So we're talking about the growing influence of African culture. Now, I think growing up, we would have noticed that the dominant or the most common culture of the diaspora outside of hip hop, right? Outside of our American music, R&B has been for quite some time Caribbean music, specifically reggae, specifically soca, dancehall, genres that have been created and formed and evolved out of the Caribbean, right? And there has been a lot of changes with regards to how um, how that music is being received and it's different types of music genre that has taken the place of Caribbean music, right? And so I've been talking with some of my friends how there's been an interesting twist and change in what is very much accepted and common for the diasporans outside of American music, specifically hip hop, R&B, and music that is common within the Black American community. Um, so I really want to. The goal is to delve into that conversation with the guest when he arrives, and to talk more about what does African fashion, the influence of African fashion in the United States and globally, and what that means. What has really initiated this change? What has initiated this trend? And the shift in which there is a lot of focus, a lot of attention to what is created and what is coming out of the continent and how it is that it's being received, not only in the United States, but also across the diaspora in the Caribbean. So we'll dig deep and into that conversation as we go through the evening. So for those of you who are joining, just to let you know, the guest is running a bit behind. He does have a big show this weekend starting on Friday, right? Well, it started this past weekend, but LagosPhx Fashion Week is a 3-day event, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I believe Friday is the VIP event. Saturday is the fashion show and after party, and then Sunday is the another event on Sunday. He's going to go into details when he gets back, when he gets here. So he literally is still with the team working and getting things ready. So he's running a little bit behind. But in the meantime, I will get things going and we can have this conversation while we wait. Um, so Hmm. I really wanted to have a guest to talk about this, particularly someone who is in the arts, in the field, particularly fashion, and from the continent, right? And what that connection means, because I can talk about culture, African fashion, with the acknowledgement that I am not from the continent, right? I'm not born there, and so there is that nuance that I recognize. And so, I want to make sure that in having this conversation that I am include individuals who are from the continent and in the work and in the culture, and playing their part in spreading the knowledge, information of what it means. So when I have conversations with individuals who are not quite sure, for example, about the fashion, not quite sure what to wear, I tend to tell them, hey, the first step is education, right? The first step is understanding. Hence why I did, the live that I did last week, basically just giving a short version of the history of what is considered traditional African wear. Um, because they vary across the continent, from across different cultures, different communities. Uh, but there is unanimous understanding of what is accepted and known as traditional culture wear for particular groups. So, in recognizing and acknowledging, right, where the culture comes from, it is quite important, I believe, to have these conversations with individuals who are from this culture and parts of this space, particularly from countries that are playing instrumental role in helping to spread the culture. So what do I mean when I say that? Um, let's say, for example, Afrobeats, right? We can say that there are a few countries on the continent that are producing the most, right? Uh, the largest number of singles that are becoming very popular and that are trending on TikTok, and then that grabs the attention of many, and they're quite popular on the airwaves here in the United States. Then we have South Africa with it with Amapiano. That's my new love. For some reason, I have this new attachment to Amapiano from South Africa. And then you have other countries, Congo, they have their unique sound. Kenya has the unique sound. Senegal has their unique sounds, right? So these countries are creating really, really amazing works that's really trending, becoming popular, and becoming recognized here in the United States. And the questions that I have is what is pushing this, right? I think I have the answer. Um, what is pushing this? What is making the music so popular now, so trendy now, and not before, right? What happened within the past 10 years, 5 to 10 years, right? What was that shift that really has led to the the attraction of African culture, and that includes the fashion and clothing. So that's a conversation that I am very, very much interested in having, in digging deep into what's the growing, and this is not growing not only in the United States. African fashion, particularly fashion shows, is quite popular in Europe. They're the biggest fashion shows. Like I think it's African Fashion Week. Yes, African Fashion Week. African Fashion Week. The most popular and the biggest African Fashion Week fashion shows are very much um well attended in Europe. And then I noticed that South Africa gained the license. South Africa has African Fashion Week in Johannesburg. Ghana has African Fashion Week, and some of the other countries are picking that up. Uganda and other countries. So it's really showing how much designers, not only musicians, but designers are receiving the credibility, the recognition for their work, and the fashion is becoming so much more recognized and well received. So when people ask me, is it acceptable to wear this and acceptable to wear that, there's so many African designers, countless amazingly talented African designers that are creating beautiful pieces that you would say is not within the confines of a culture, right, or their tradition. So it's being aware of that, and recognizing that it's okay. It's okay to be fashionable, and explore, right, and engage into these fashions that has not that that comes from the continent, originates from the continent, but not necessarily related to a specific tribe, a specific community. What I've noticed is that they are some designers that are from specific cultural groups that would create replicas of their traditional wear, right? So I think that is their signal to saying, you know what, it is okay to wear these pieces because it's not the exact styles that is worn for particular special occasions that they may have, right? I think on next time I will share pictures. I think I'll do that next time. I will share pictures of designers who have recreated traditional look and made them much a little bit more modern. There's some Ethiopian designers who are doing that, really modernizing their traditional wear for those who are from that culture but living in the West, but also for those of us who are from the diaspora who live in the West, and are drawn to those styles. So there are a lot of really talented designers, tailors who are creating beautiful pieces outside of their their traditional pieces for the most part. So it's if there's anybody who may have any idea as to what would you think would be the reasons for the sudden um popularity of African culture, right? I was listening to an interview by Malik Berry. Some of you may know him, and he is a Nigerian artist. He grew not grew up, but I think he went to school in England. And in that conversation, during the interview, he mentioned the fact that being African was nothing to be proud of, right? Even during the 80s, the 70s, maybe the 90s, they the African students would associate themselves with the Caribbean students because being Caribbean, being West Indian was so much more popular, right? Because of the music, because of reggae, because of dancehall, because of soca. And so Malik Berry was stating that his a lot of his music has that uh Jamaican reggae sound because he was influenced so much by the Caribbean music and the Caribbean community back in England, right? Because during that time, students really did not walk around saying or embracing their African culture or stating that they're from the continent. However, we know that has changed totally, it's totally different times. But he's saying now over time that has changed. And so he was able to go back to Nigeria, and really, put using the influences that he had from his association with the Caribbean community in England, to really help him develop the type of style of music that he has. So he is one of my favorite Afrobeats artists. He does have that unique style that I like, that I find familiar, and so hearing that in that conversation, I found it quite interesting. Quite interesting to hear that. So it's. I think it's exciting. I think it's exciting that there is now a more there's more there are positive influences. There are positive um what should I say, inspiration, uh culture that's coming from the continent beyond the negative stuff that we've been fed consistently for decades, for centuries, right? For those of us who are from the diaspora, right, we all know of the kind of images and stories that we were told of the continent, so that we, are not we're not encouraged to have an interest of that space, or to want to engage individuals from that space. So I find it quite refreshing, and I know many of you do also find it quite refreshing to know that there is this is a change. This is a change, and many people are embracing it wholeheartedly, to the point where they're even visiting the continent for themselves, and exploring the space, and learning more of the culture, and embracing everything for what it is. So this change is really significant in many ways, in light of what's been in the past, right? Very, very significant. And this is why culture is so important, right? This is why music and fashion and the food and information that comes out of a group of people or a space is so important, right? Because it really forms the idea and the perception of what people think of you, right? It's that gateway into an understanding of a group of people, an understanding of a culture, right? Um, and I think, the music and the fashion that we're all growing to appreciate and embrace really has helped us to open our minds to learning more of, what, let me see what's really going on in Africa. Let me have more relationships with the continent and those from the continent, to have a better understanding of what it's like, what it's really like there. All right, so for those of us who are now joining, I'm just apologizing that the guest is running late. I'm running behind because they're, preparing for a big event this weekend. So just being kept updated on that. So we'll keep you updated when anything changes with that. Hey, Brother Gaston, how are you? So, yeah, so we're talking about the influence. I'm thinking of it in a global way of the growth of African fashion and clothing, fashion and music globally. But in Phoenix specifically, and this is what the guest is supposed to be speaking on, in Phoenix specifically, there is that growth that's happening, right? And I've talked about in the past when I first started with my business with the brand, there really was not much of a scene. It was not that popular, particularly in the fashion industry. There were individuals who were selling African clothing, but it was very much, it was not, it was not very popular, right? And but that has changed over time, and so I've been here in Arizona for a few years, over 10 years, right? And it's really exciting to see how that change has developed over that period of time. And I must say thank you to Hollywood, and that's the other thing we want to talk about today. Thank you for Hollywood to Hollywood. Despite the criticism, I feel um, that the movies that are being created really, really, really help to have that positive reinforcement that we've been lacking for generations, right? A positive reinforcement of that culture that we really do not know much about, if anything at all, right? It's giving us some kind of information, some kind of food um, that gives us access to knowledge of the history of the continent, or different parts, or different communities, right, of the continent. So I will always be indebted to a Black Panther, but for different reasons for some of us, for most of us, right? My reason for really loving Black Panther is because it helped to open that space for those who've kind of had an interest in the culture, but not sure how to explore it, how to embrace it, how to receive it, right? How do I is it okay for me to even acknowledge that part of me, right? And I think um Welcome to America helped in its own way, but Black Panther really, really made that stamp, an imprint for us in the diaspora, that really helped us to open up that portal, and of pride and acknowledgement of that element of us that, you know, historically has always been held back from us, right? In various ways, has been always held back from us. So I'm always going to be indebted to Black Panther, and so this is why I'm even more excited for Woman King. So for those of you who are interested in going to see Woman King, um, we're having a private movie screening next month, September 17th. So, and we're going to be watching the movie, and we're going to be having an engaging conversation about what we saw, and really dig deep about what the impact is, and what the meaning of what we saw. Right. So I'm really, really excited to see what kind of imprint is going to be left from Woman King movie, because that's a different kind of genre, right? It's a different type of story that's being told, and even more importantly, even more importantly, it is a true story, right? Now, knowing Hollywood, it is going to be their own elements, their own twist of things. Um, but I'm quite curious to see what how they're going to tell the story of the Dahomey warriors. I I've so far, I've been looking at the comments under the trailers. I don't know who else does this, but whenever I'm looking at a video, while I'm listening to the video, I'm going looking through the comments. I spend way too much time reading the comments, because I like to get an understanding of how people are interpreting, receiving and interpreting the information, and what their position is. And so a few days ago, I looked at the trailer again, since it's been a couple weeks since the trailer was released. And I was looking at the comments that are being made. And there seems to be such an effort to diligent. Is that a word? Legitimize? It delegitimize. Is that a word? Illegitimize. I don't know if that's the word. Somebody let me know if delegitimize it. I don't know if that's the word. If my mother's on there, is delegitimize the word? But they're trying to um give the impression that the Dahomey warriors were not as impactful or significant, or they were not um uh as good of a fighter, right, as the movie may be making it to be. That's one. Two, um the comments that are being made is to suggest, not to suggest, is to reinforce the fact that they played a role in the slave trade, right? So I'm seeing people who are not even from the community, right, who are consistently making comments. Yeah, but these are, they're people who were so vicious, and they were played at a critical part, right, in the slave trade, and they sold their own people out, and they benefited and profited from the slave trade, blah blah blah, right? So you're seeing that messaging being reminded consistently, and nothing that is could be slightly positive um about the history and the mere fact that this story ever existed, right? So I can tell that the the goal that is or the intention of many people um is to remove the credibility, is to remove the credibility or these impacts of these of the group, of these amazingly, uh I say significantly impactful women and the role they played, right? So I'm sorry, I'm getting that messages. um 1 second, please. um Sorry, guys. Sorry. Okay, sorry. um So also we should celebrate Black with female director. I agree. I think there's everything about. Sorry, yes. I think there was a misunderstanding with the time. So I think every there's everything about the movie. But the thing is that, and I'm getting messages from individuals saying, clearly that, like, somebody really, I hope the person is not watching this right now, but I got a text message yesterday saying, with a snapshot from this random group that has no oh um sorry, apparently there was a mix up at the time. um yeah, so there was a snapshot that was sent to me of someone's interpretation of the history of the Dahomey warriors, and they under the screenshot they sent me, they said, I don't think this, what I said is, this movie is not telling the truth, or the real story behind who these warriors were, right? And my response was, have you seen the movie? No. And I'm like, where are you getting this information from, right? um I'm not going to say what the website is, but it's not a website that's remotely rooted in anything historical or of African history or in any way, right? So I'm noticing that a lot of people are now having conversations about the topic, but it is being done in a way in which they're trying to remove the impact and the significance, right? You can't do that for Black Panther. We know Black Panther is a comic, it's a was a comic book, right? So it's not based on actual facts, or a true story, right? It's not rooted or grounded in a true story. So you can't really, you there's not much you can say to that. However, I'm noticing that there's really there's intention in trying to remove the power and the significance of what this can mean. right? Um, it's a paradigm shift on the focus. It is. It is. It is. It is. Thank you for saying that. Right. And so, how does the society receive something like that? Right. How does society receive? Because from generations, we've heard of the Amazon warriors, right? To the point where when Hi, so hey Emeka. Um I'm not quite sure how to add you because okay, let me see if I can invite you. Um 1 second. Let me see. I'm going to 1 second, sorry. I am going to um send you a check your inbox. Check your inbox and all right, check your inbox, messenger, and then you can join from that link. Sorry, guys. Sorry. He's gonna join virtually. Um, all right. So let me know if you have any problems joining. Yeah, so it's yeah, it's yeah, how do we, yeah, so for generations we've heard of the Amazon warriors, right? And we've heard that we know that story to the point where when the Dahomey warriors came out, they were calling them the what do they call them, the Dahomey Amazon, or I think something, yeah, that, yeah, the Dahomey Amazon, I think they were calling them something along those lines. um so we'll see once the movie comes out how how society is able to receive. Okay, there he is. 1 second, let me join him in. Hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Sorry, I don't have a professional camera with you.
Can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Um, how about now?
uh Let me see. I don't know if there is. Are you guys hearing him at all?
Do you need to unmute me maybe?
Okay, so let me
Do you
think.
need to unmute me maybe?
You can't hear him. Okay, so then it has to be something on my end because I'm not able to hear anybody um once I am live use. Wait. Let me think. Let me think. Um let's see. You can hear him. So I cannot um 1 second. Yeah, but I'm not hearing him. So I'm trying to decide to see what it is that I'm supposed to be doing on my end. Audio. Okay, can somebody say something?
I'm saying something. Can you hear me?
My
Can you
computer
hear me?
volume, it's on. 1 second. All right, one. Okay. All right, say something. Let me hear.
Hello?
Um, So go to my laptop settings, the computer.
Maybe perhaps you want me to leave, join again?
Mm, let me go to settings again. 1 second.
I mean, I
Audio.
think, can I see the chats? Um, some,
Okay, I think I hear somebody.
can you hear me?
Hello? Yes, I can hear you now.
And I think now I'm echo, but it's okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yes,
Pardon
sir.
the interruption.
6 p.m. MST.
Okay. For some reason I wouldn't have. Yeah, because I'm actually in the middle of a rehearsal right now. I had to find a quiet place, but we're here. We move.
All right. Okay. We'll be moving. Yes. Well, thank you for joining. I know.
Thank
I
you.
know.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
Yes, yes, it's okay. It's okay. We'll make it work. So um I went in, I was talking about what has influenced the growth of African fashion culture, right? And how
Hmm.
it has evolved over the past couple of years.
Hmm.
Um but before we go into that, can you introduce yourself, because there are a few people online. I don't know if you can see the comment section who do not know who you are. So a little bit about Emeka Njoku.
My name is Emeka Njoku. I consider myself, I guess, a cultural influencer. I feel I'm a real estate agent, an investor, startup, stuff like that. And I spend quite a bit of my time trying to make sure African culture is part of the growth that's happening in Phoenix.
There we go. And so um he's very much involved in the African, well, in the scene here, in the culture, right? But what methods are you using to help make that happen?
I think just making sure, like obviously Lagos Phoenix, being one of the projects is bringing African culture because Lagos is a culture hub for Africans, right? So it's bringing
Mm-hmm.
African culture into Phoenix, and when we do that, one of the mistakes that we make often is we say, "Hey, this is my culture. Let me protect it and not invite anybody else in." You know,
Mm, mm.
I feel like for me, it's the opposite. I feel like if we're helping these emerging designers, we're helping these creatives, we have to expand their reach outside of our community. They need to be able to market their products and services outside of our community because at the end of the day, the American culture is being marketed all over the world. So
Mm-hmm.
why should we restrict our reach to just our own culture or our own people? So what I do is I market, what we do to everybody. Everybody's welcome. We make it, welcoming for everybody because we live in Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
You can't come to a country and try to, seclude yourself from what's happening here. We have to infuse our culture, make sure our culture is part of that. People should go to African restaurants that are not Africans.
Mm.
People should wear African clothes that are not Africans because at the end of the day, money is green. So I think maybe that's a different approach that I'm using.
All right, all right. So I'm gonna push you back on that a little bit, right? So
Yeah,
they are, so Emeka and I are friends. We've been friends for quite a few
for
years.
a long time. Yeah,
We've known each other for a long time.
yeah.
So what about the concern, right? Of
Hmm.
um really oh, what's the word? The word I'm losing, of appropriating, right?
Yeah.
There are two arguments: cultural appropriation, but there are also those of us from the diaspora who are not from the continent that are scared that they wear the wrong thing or wear something that might, offend someone. What about those arguments or concerns?
I mean, let's be realistic. The African fashion and African culture has been modernized for the modern day.
Yes.
So
Yep.
you
Yep.
will rarely see somebody that's wearing something that will offend you as an African. It's just them wearing something they bought on Amazon or from a US based
Yeah.
designer, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
I want you. I would love to see more of those, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you're talking about like traditional, deep root, traditional things, yeah, those are things you ask questions before you wear or before you do.
Mm-hmm.
It,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and in terms of like Hollywood, those are things that they need to ask questions and say, how do I properly interpret this culture? That way it's accurate
Mm-hmm.
and that way it's not offensive to anybody. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get that, but just a day-to-day cultural thing, like if I pull up at a stop sign and I see a non-African playing Afrobeat, I'm not gonna be offended by that. That actually makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and so I'm gonna speak on that. Remember, if it's okay to speak on the part where I think there is some place we were and Afrobeats was playing, and they were like the only black folks in the
Yeah.
room,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what is this?
Correct. I remember that place, and I took you there for a reason.
I'm like, did you have something to do with that?
No,
Oh,
because I just feel like I wanted you to see how far, you know, African cultures, how quickly it's expanding, and how we as Africans are not taking the driver's seat in that,
yeah,
because we need
exactly.
to start doing that. And
Take
by do,
control.
yeah, and by
Yeah,
allowing, being like in control of that and allowing, like, we could have possibly put DJs in different places. That way, when they want to play Afro music, they can bring an African DJ. That way, part of
yeah,
that money is going towards us, right?
exactly,
Because
exactly.
if you go buy like an African clothes at Amazon, most likely it's not an African person behind that business.
Nope, nope.
Correct. So if we
Yep.
can promote our people and put those businesses in the forefront of this
Mm-hmm.
growth, then
Yeah.
it makes it better. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So I see where you're going, right? Basically, it sounds as though you're saying is it's spreading, it's happening, right?
It's gonna happen
So,
regardless of what.
huh?
It's gonna happen regardless of what. There's nothing we can do to stop it
Exactly.
spreading.
Exactly. So while it's happening, right, make sure that Africans are the ones who are, in positions to benefit from that
Correct.
growth that's happening.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, okay. Hi. It makes sense. That makes sense. Go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, no. I was just
Okay.
agreeing with you.
Okay. Let me know if, because it looks like if you're still at the hotel, if let me know if there's a time constraint, because this ends around
There's
7:30 ish.
there's no time. I mean, don't mind the sound that's happening behind me, but I hope you can hear me okay.
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Okay.
I can. Okay, you're the boss anyway, so you're fine. They'll they'll be okay.
I'm not
Um.
just man of the people.
Oh, you're man of the people. That's what. Oh,
Yes,
okay.
yes,
Sure,
yes.
sure, sure. So what would you say is the influence of the growth, right? Because this happened suddenly, right? Like all of a sudden, right? African music, has and the fashion just suddenly started becoming an interest, and quite popular. So from your perspective, what would you say really played a role in that?
I think it's not sudden, you know,
Oh,
it's not
okay.
sudden and it's not out of nowhere, because if you think of it, there's been circles of or phases of African influence around the world. Like if you
Mm-hmm.
think of the 60s, you know, all these musicians like, you know, the Beatles, they used to go to Africa, to Lagos to go make music, you know.
Mm,
All these people used to do that. You can see if you go like if you go back to the 60s, you will see a lot of African influence,
the
you know,
influence. Yeah, yeah.
especially within the black culture. Outside of Africa, there was a lot of African influence, you know. So I feel like there was no supporting system. There was no like social media. We have social media today, so it
That's yeah, that's helping.
correct. Yeah, it
Yeah,
helps. That way, you don't feel like you're the only one playing Afrobeat. You know, like you're
yeah,
not. And when these artists make music nice, easy for me to play it on my story, and the people following me be like, "Oh, what's that? Let me listen to it too." Right.
yeah.
So I feel like it's not sudden. It's just like we have a better way of sharing it now,
Mm.
and it's more
Hmm.
visible, but it's always been there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I told this story, before you got on, of a conversation interview I heard by Malik Berry,
Hmm.
right? who grew up and went to school in England, right? And he told the story of the fact that in school it was not very popular to call yourself African, right?
Hmm.
You still had those um, stereotypes
Hmm.
that was quite popular, powerful, and
Hmm.
so they associated more with the Caribbean community, right? And some of my
Yeah.
friends quite recently have been talking, joking to the fact, like, all right, we had our turn. You guys can have it now. You guys can have it
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah.
Malik Berry was talking about the fact that his music style is influenced very much from his association with the Jamaican larger Caribbean community.
Hmm.
And so he's paying homage to that. Um and so I totally lost my thought with that. But do
Yeah.
you see the growth, that evolution that's happening?
That evolution is happening because as a kid too, growing up, I used to listen like reggae. Like I
Yeah.
knew more about reggae than I knew about African music. Like I listened to
Ah,
Fela growing up, but Fela was kind of a rebel. So listening to Fela, like people kind of looked at you like, why are you bad? Like you're a bad child. Like something like you must be a rebel, right?
yeah.
It's the equivalent of somebody listening to Tupac when Tupac was alive. People
Mm,
kind of looked at you like you must be a gangster or something.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I listened to a lot of like Lucky Dube, Fela, Gregory Isaac, all those. I mean, not Fela, but Bob Marley,
Bob
Gregory
Marley, yeah.
Isaac, what's his name? Lee, Scratch Lee Perry, Perry
Who?
Scratch Lee. Eh,
Is he Caribbean?
I'm going all the way deep.
Yeah, that, yeah.
But like those people did influence African music because the first phase of African music, like Afrobeat outside of Fela, had like if you go back and watch the history of Afrobeat, there's a lot of Caribbean influence in there.
Mm-hmm.
Even
Yep.
the likeness of Burna Boy. Burna Boy started with like reggae style before he
Yeah.
switched. So if you go to Burna Boy 2014 or something like that, he was still doing like more of a reggae vibe
Yep.
was Afrobeat. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. 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 I'm excited. I love it. I love it all. And now we're seeing I'm a piano, right? Coming up,
uh,
making significant strides.
yeah.
Um, and so I don't know how you feel about I'm a piano. But it's
I'm
I
all for it because it has to be different. I mean, if you think about it, there was like what is it called from like the Congo area back Makosa. Back you remember that was pretty popular.
yes,
You
yeah.
know,
I love
it,
I love the Congolese music.
right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like they kind of took the for that driver's seat.
Mm-hmm.
At the beginning with Afrobeat and the African music. So there's been phases of it. It's just like
Yeah.
as social media expands the reach of these artists, it makes it easier for them to become popular. It makes it easier for you to walk into a white club and hear Afrobeat.
I swear that threw me off. I'm like, what
Yeah.
is this? We're like probably the only two black people in there. Like, what is going on? But it's quite fascinating. And
Correct.
I think it's do you think it's in any way helping with the relationship between Africans and African Americans?
I think it is happening a bit because I see more African Americans listening to Afrobeat and relating
Yeah.
more to it. And one thing that's not been given enough credit that's helping a lot is Ancestry.com and the DNA testing processes.
Mm,
Because now, if somebody, like I have a friend that called me, I think it was a month ago, was like, hey, let's go have lunch somewhere. Is there a Nigerian restaurant? I'm like, what's going on with you? Like, why do you want to go eat at a Nigerian restaurant? He's like, I'll tell you when we get there. I'm like, okay. So I ordered like something and we were
uh-huh.
talking. He's like, guess what? Like, I just got my ancestry DNA
He's
test
Nigerian.
back. He's like 43% Nigerian. I'm like, so like it does make people
Yeah.
feel like they are connected to a culture.
Yep.
Now they start to seek, you know, um, themselves, trying to find themselves
Yep.
in that culture. So I think that's not been given enough credit, but that's
Mm-hmm.
actually helping connect a lot of black people back to Africa because most
Yeah.
of them felt like I don't know where I came from, but now they can actually
Yeah.
tie it to a specific place.
Yeah, yeah. So it's really helping to establish that connection, right? Um, is it bringing us together though? Because we're not socializing in the same spaces, right? I can feel that, the diasporans, they are being drawn to the space.
Mhm.
But I don't see us socializing in the same spaces. We're still
I
going
see it
to,
happening. I see it happening. It's just a slow process. It's not something that's gonna happen overnight. It's something that will take collaboration. It's something that will take effort.
mm,
Something that will take strategic planning. And let me tell you a story. Right? Is when we first started, like I've had people that have commented on like, oh, why do you have non-Africans as designers, or why do you have Africans as models, right?
yeah,
My answer to that is this: if you're trying to introduce your culture to a people, if they can see themselves in that culture, if you can properly introduce it and include them in that, then you're doing a bad job. So, like having this show that we're having this weekend where there are non-African designers in it, right? That's part of
yeah,
building that relationship. That's part of building the invitation where we're welcoming them in and say, hey, you're part of this. Don't feel like an outsider. You are part of
mm,
what we're doing. But it's gonna take
yeah,
relationships like that where you go to a club and you have, an African born DJ and an African born DJ playing different things, and people are
yeah,
vibing
yeah,
to it. And I see that a lot now when I go to clubs, or go to a bar. You see that, like even like a non-African born DJ playing Afro beats, part of their
yeah.
night.
Yeah, that's definitely, we have a few DJs here watching, but that's definitely is been happening.
And I
And
applaud them because DJs are in the forefront of this movement. So I definitely applaud the DJs for what they do.
for playing that role.
Right.
Yeah, and people like yourself, right, who are organizing these events, right, that creates a space so that we can have these conversations,
Correct.
that help to facilitate the connection that's happening. So what do you think is, how do Africans see these movies, right, that's being created by Hollywood, right? So there is our idealistic fantasy of what it is to be African, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm speaking of those who are, from the diaspora. And then there is the reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of
Mm-hmm.
um what is it to be from the continent. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, like, what do Africans think about these stories, especially the Black Panther, and now Woman King is coming. We haven't seen it as yet, so I know you wouldn't really be able to say much on that. But
Yeah.
overall, what is the perception of these stories?
I'm gonna say something a bit more controversial,
Okay.
because I am a bit more. I see the creative idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. is the most powerful marketing company in the world, right?
Yeah.
When I lived
Yeah.
back home, I honestly thought like when I came to the US, the street would be painted gold. Like people just chilled. People just like think of your favorite TV shows, like
Uh-huh.
the Cosby's. You think of like Fresh Prince. What are
Yeah.
they doing? They're just having fun. They're just chilling. Seinfeld. They're just chilling. They're just hanging
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
creates like this fantasy world, right?
Uh-huh.
Of the US, and it makes the US appealing to everybody else outside of the
That
US.
is so true. That the
Correct.
amazing job doing that.
Correct. So US is fantasized. They have like these fantasized characters and all of that. Why can't we do that?
Hmm.
Why is Africa an exception to that? Like, yeah, if we want to have an African heroes, that tell stories of, like a rich African community that's completely like insane to think about, why not? Like you have Superman. Like you have.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you hear
Oh.
me? Sorry, people are calling me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're fine.
Can
We
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you.
Yeah, the idea of Superman doesn't make sense, right? But it still
Right. True.
exists. So yeah, I'm okay with as long as it's not them making movies of villages and crazy things. There's enough of that happening.
I don't know. So look, I can tell you, I know there are a few people from Guyana, right, that are
Mhm,
watching right now, including my mother.
mhm,
And Nollywood movies, I don't know, it's still the same, but they
mhm.
have been quite popular in Guyana. Very
Correct.
popular, right? And unfortunately, it has they have really formed the thinking of what of African culture, the Nigerian culture,
Mhm.
particularly religion and spirituality,
Correct.
right? It
Correct.
has left that that belief of, evil, bad, and all of
Mhm,
that stuff,
mhm.
why can you, like, just why is it that they're I know it's very much part of the culture, but why is it that they're spinning it so negatively? What is, especially to
Yeah, I can't answer that question. I cannot, because this is what I think, and I think that's why I do things the way I do things is this. When you have a phone or a camera or social media, or you call yourself a creative, an influencer, whatever the case is, you are now part of the storytelling team
yeah,
of a
yeah,
place. So what you post, what you do, what you showcase forms an idea of a place. And
exactly.
we all have to start taking accountability for that, because if I live outside of Nigeria, my only view of Nigeria is based on what I see on social media and
Yep,
what I see on TV. And there's been enough bad narrative told of Africa in general, or Black history
yep,
in general, where I don't feel guilty if I have to tell all true. If I have to take a video of all the good places and skip all the bad places when I go home, I don't
yeah,
feel bad about that, because there's
yeah,
enough people doing that. And I think like Nollywood being a powerhouse need to take ownership of what they tell, what story they
yep. The
tell. Or,
stories. Yep. Yeah, yeah, and I don't know if they recognize that, right? I don't think, because you see, you have the benefits of living in the United States and being
right,
from there, and so now you have the understanding of how powerful stories are, right?
correct.
Just like how America's able to create that story and image
Hmm.
of
Hmm.
what America is to the rest of the world. I don't
Correct.
think other places like Nollywood and Nigeria really understand the impact that they're making by the type of stories that they're telling consistently, and the impact that's leaving on the imprints of people's minds.
Yeah,
um
I think at first they all are artists, right? That are trying to make money doing their craft. So at first, most artists will start selling or subscribing to what sells, right? I'm gonna make
yeah,
movie
yeah,
that people will buy or people that will go see, right? So I think I see some artists have been in the game long enough where they react realizing the impact of their movies, and they start
mm-hmm,
making other movies. So there are new movies now, new producers where you see that they show like the good parts of Lagos, the good part of Nigeria, happy
mm-hmm,
stories, stories of royalties, like what is it
yeah,
called? Lionheart, all those things. Like those are movies where you watch, you're like, okay, I feel like I've been to this country, and it's
yeah.
has nothing to do with evil spirits and demons and
It's
poisoning people and
ridiculous.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So hey, look, if you need another project, I know you're running for some political office in
I
Nigeria at some point in the
I
future.
I don't know. Let's just take it baby steps.
That could be your platform. that
Ah,
that that
yeah,
could be your platform.
yeah,
um
baby steps. Yeah.
so I'll go ahead. I know if you're saying something.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, so it's do you, I don't know if I asked you this question, if you're able to um I pinpoint that change, the reason for that change of that evolution, right? Apart from, Hollywood, I am thinking that the diaspora really is playing a big role, right? And diaspora, as I mean, those Africans who are first generation, second generation Africans who are now living in the West, right?
Mhm,
And they're not really, they have one foot in Western culture, Western life, and the other foot, in a parent's
mhm,
home, still um respecting and recognizing that African culture. And I have a feeling that, that community also really has played a big role in making African music, particularly the food and the fashion, popular. Because I'm thinking of an interview by Burna Boy, and he said, no, was it Burna Boy or was it Davido? I think it was Davido, right? And he thanked the Nigerians in the United States. Right, he thanked the Nigerians in North America because he said they're the ones who bought all of his tickets, right? Sold out his shows, and
Mhm.
because of that support, right, it really helped to push the music and the recognition of the the music and Afrobeats at a larger by extension, to that next level.
Yeah,
So I think that's the diaspora, that is the first, second generation, really played a big role in making
yeah,
that happen, in
yeah.
making it
I
happen.
think, yeah, I think that's right. But I think as much as we like to make social media a bad thing, social media has played an important role because it's made the
Hmm.
world a smaller place. Technology in
Hmm.
general has made the world a smaller place.
Yeah.
So me living here, I can consume things back home while
Yep.
still here. I can still, like, a music can come out today. By the time it's 2 hour, an hour, not even an hour, I can hear it here. That wasn't the case 10, 20 years ago. That was not the case,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is the evolution of communication and social media has helped. It's had a significant impact
Hmm.
in that world because even if I don't know how to cook Nigerian food, I can watch YouTube,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And Nigerian wedding, I can see it on YouTube. I can be like, ooh, I want to go to that. Or this is how I want my wedding to be here.
Yeah.
Or, these are the kind of music that I want. Before, the people that were here, the Africans that were here, they really didn't have that much access to back home. You have to write letter. You have to call somebody on the phone. Now
Yeah.
the world is a smaller place. I can video
It's
call somebody in Nigeria.
yeah. 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 It's easier. I I s- I smiled when you talked about the cooked food, but I'm gonna say talk about
Oh, you've been watching YouTube videos?
Yeah, because you told me. Remember that time? So okay. So random story. I got this. What was some stew from a friend, a Congolese friend? I got this some stew, from a Congolese friend. And I didn't have anything to eat it with. I'm like, what am I supposed to eat this with? So I call Emeka up. I'm like, I got some food here. I don't like.
Can
Do you
I
have
bring
food? Can I have some food? Emeka's like, oh God, sure. So did you
Yeah.
show me how to make it, or he just made me
I
like, okay,
tried. I
fine?
tried. It was a failed attempt.
Look, it worked. It worked. I was able to eat something with my stew. I'm like, all right, thank you, bye.
Mama, use me for my fufu.
I use
Story
it
of
for
my
the food.
life.
Like, I need some food. I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, but social media is it's really playing it. And for those of us who've never been from the to the continent, right, it's really opening our eyes. Like, even for the back to Africa movement, right, so many
Mm.
African Americans, have
Right.
been traveling to and continue to traveling to the continent, and
Right.
having the ability to see the images for the first time on their own,
Mhm.
right, without that policing of alternative traditional media. It's
Yeah.
really helpful in making that happen.
Yeah.
It's really
So
helpful.
big shout out to social media and technology.
Hey, look, it has its bad parts too, but yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Oh, that meta
Meta X Fashion.
meta. I think I'm pretty excited to come to your show on Saturday, because I want to
Yeah.
see what that's going to be all about. I'm
Yeah. I think
fascinated. I don't know if you want to
yeah.
talk about it
Yeah. We'll talk about it like after the show, maybe.
after the show. All right. So let's talk a little bit as we start wrapping it up. About the direction you're going with your organization.
Yeah.
What the I didn't realize was a nonprofit. So why
hmm
nonprofit, and what's the direction?
Why nonprofit? Because there's a lot of things we do is to support the community,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of the things that we do, this is not to make me rich or make anybody within the team rich. This is more to make sure that, one, we can infuse our culture into the growing, like Phoenix is growing super fast, right?
It is. It is.
Um, and secondly, making sure that those businesses, emerging businesses within our community, we can find a way to find them funding. The reality of it is this: is if you have a small business, you probably don't have a location. If you do have a location, you're struggling. So, if we can build a platform where people know where you are, how to get hold of you, but also work on the other end of it to help you find funding to keep that
Yeah.
business afloat, then I feel like we've succeeded. So that's the direction, is to make sure that Lagos Phoenix is a hub for not just African fashion and culture, but for also business resources.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay. But there, well, that's impressive, and I can speak to that. I reached out looking for funding. He's like, let me have somebody call you, and so the person gave me like a long list of sources to go for looking for to get access to funding.
yeah,
I have to follow up with her, but
yeah.
yes, yes, it's
So I
you
think
guys are doing the work for that.
that's the next phase, is to make sure the city, because at the end of the day, the city has a lot of funding that they give away to different businesses in different communities, and
Yeah,
African culture and African people, African businesses need to claim a portion of that and make sure
yes,
nobody
yes.
is they don't forget us in the process.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I,
yeah.
I I was talking to what's her name? Mom oh she has her shop on 43rd and Northern. What's her name?
I think I know who you're talking about. I forgot.
Yeah. Yeah, her name is Zola, I can't remember. Um but no, she was talking about how difficult it is as a business owner, right,
Mhm,
to just stay open. And there's she said that there are a lot of regulations
mhm,
and guidelines that the city would just show up at their store,
mhm.
and pop in and then check to see that the fridge is the right temperature, and everything is sanitized and clean. And she's like, look, if we step out of line, it's a shutdown for a couple of
Yeah,
hours.
yeah,
Like she's told me how she's had to throw away food because
mhm,
they felt it was on the shelf for too long. And she's like,
right,
look, it's an African store. Like we sell fish, like we sell
yeah,
it's not gonna smell the same way as the bigger stores, right?
yeah.
But she's been penalized for that. So it's
And I
it's
think that's part of what we're doing, is to make sure we can put together workshops to give them those like classes ahead of time. That way they know those information ahead of time, like, hey, this is what you need to run your business,
yeah,
what you need to file your business, stay in good standing, and
yeah,
if you're applying for loan, this is what they're looking for. We need to
yeah.
do
Yeah, yeah, that kind of support is definitely needed, to keep the businesses open.
that.
Well, just let me know which other resource you have, because
Yeah,
I'm not, yeah.
definitely. You can always go to LagosPhoenix.com. We're always gonna continue to update, those resources there, and make sure we're here. We're
Okay,
here for
yeah.
the people.
You're here for the people. Yeah, people, man of the people. So any comments, anything to say for the show this weekend? I know there are people who still
Sure.
have to buy their tickets.
Yes. Please, my people, please stop buying tickets last minute. It helps creative minds like us. It helps us plan ahead of time. That way, you have a good experience. We want
Yes.
you to enjoy the show. Standing in line to buy ticket, you starting the show the wrong way. So we want to make sure that you come in and you enjoy yourself. So buy the tickets ahead of time. The link is still on our website.
How many designers and how many models? I heard you have like
So
a lot of models this year.
we have about 126 models,
That's
11
a lot.
designers. One of them is a virtual designer, X Fashion, which is like a metaverse based
Yeah,
design. Uh,
crazy. Yep.
3 day worth of events. Like, just come have fun, enjoy. Sunday, we're just gonna relax, be bougie, and enjoy some good food and good drinks, and just get some sun. Yeah.
There we go. There we go. All right. So I think that's it for today. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add that I haven't asked us yet.
No, that's it. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Okay, you're most welcome. I might pop up since you're right down the street. I want to see these models that you have.
We are done at
Um,
8 o'clock, but if you can make it before 8 o'clock, come through.
oh, okay. All right, I'll see. I don't know about
Okay.
that. All right, I'll let you know.
All right.
All right, bye. Bye,
All
bye,
right.
bye. Okay, so that was Emeka. Yes, apparently he got mixed up with the timing. He looked at the EST instead of the MST. So he had texted me asking, "Oh my gosh, is it at 9 o'clock?" No, 9 o'clock EST, not our time. So I'm just grateful that he was able to jump on for a few minutes while he's still working through plans for this weekend. And so yeah, it was really good to hear his perspective. Right, he is a very much a businessman. Right, in his approach to the culture and how it is growing and how it is being accepted, and the message of, hey, if it's growing, we should at least be the ones in the forefront being able to benefit and take advantage of it, which makes sense, right? How much would the community in the world that we live in really have control of the changes that are happening, right? Because as we talked about, that 100 the majority, a lot of people, when they buy their first African outfit, they go on Amazon, they go online, and oftentimes 90% of the times, if they do so, it is so affordable, they're getting it from China, right? They're not getting it from an African designer or creator, right? So the events that he organizes, the events that I do, really help to push the culture forward and bring to the attention, to the forefront, to the designers or the creators who are really in the work, who are really helping to elevate the culture, so that they can benefit from it too. So it's still early in the game. It's definitely not a losing battle as yet. But I think that more of us should, as I said last week, be aware, have the be educated, and understand, as I said last week, that for the most part, if you're seeing the designs online and in pictures, it's you can wear them, right? It's because a lot of these designers are modernizing it and making it acceptable and open. So I end that to say that hopefully there should not be anyone else really using the question, right, or concern of whether it's okay as a reason for not being able to embrace the culture and the clothing wholeheartedly as they would like. All right. So I think I'll end that for tonight. I thank you all for being a part of this conversation. I actually really enjoyed it, because sometimes it's good to hear from someone else, hear their perspective, particularly from someone who is in the work, doing the work, and is also from the continent, and is making significant strides in elevating the culture in a meaningful way that is helpful for everyone involved. So we will end there for tonight. If no one has any questions or comments, I do want to apologize for the late start and a little bit of a hiccup, but I guess these things happen. So it's okay. So I'll see you all next week, Tuesday. Um, I am planning something engaging for next week. Also, for those of you who do listen every week, if you can remember last week, the young lady Keishel Jennings, who I mentioned was going for the Miss Emancipation beauty pageant in Guyana, right? She's always watching my shows, very much a supporter of mine. I am really, really excited to share that she won the competition. She is now a Miss Emancipation beauty pageant holder of 2022 back home in Guyana. So we spoke briefly, Keishel. If you're listening right now, you're probably not, but if you are, huge congratulations. And I'm trying to see if I can get her on the show. I think it would be great to have a conversation with someone from Guyana, representing the larger Caribbean culture, but specifically Guyana, and talking about the African culture from that space. So we're working out a good time when she'll be able to join us. Thank you, Brother Trimikas. Yes, I don't say that enough, if at all, but everyone, this is something that I'm trying to build. This is across the diaspora. Um, a podcast, right? And it's a conversation, as you can see, where am working to, and the goal is to bring us closer together, a better understanding of each other culturally, that's deepened in real conversation and engagement. So please, if you enjoy these conversations, share. Please like, and if you're on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're not on YouTube, please go on YouTube and subscribe. I would appreciate the support, and I will see you next week around the same time, 6 a.m., 6 o'clock, 6:30 p.m. Okay. All right. Bye, everyone.